All right, everybody, it looks like we are live. Micah, I hope you're there. I see myself in the frame, so
I'm here unless I'm not.
yeah, you're here, but are you really?
No, not really.
You're not a simulation, are you?
No, I've been playing around with some AI avatar stuff today, and it's still not there.
Yeah, still not there. Right on. Well, hey, we're live doing a mashup today. A lot
Yep.
of stuff that I wanted to cover that Micah was kind enough to join me on, and going to be discussing various things today. But what are we talking about, Micah? Do you remember?
The big one is the Jeff Durbin and Costi Hinn thing,
Who?
which just so happens I actually watched a
Is there
couple of
something
days
wrong with your
ago.
microphone, and you need to bring it a little closer? Is that what's wrong?
Oh, I know. I'll bring it in a little bit closer and talk a little bit louder.
Yeah. So
So
there was a recent conversation. You say
yeah, I don't know. I thought it was kind of a little bit of a downer. Not that
you wanted a
intriguing. I thought it
debate.
was. I wanted fists to fly,
Yeah.
but that really wasn't in the cards, I guess.
Yeah. 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 No, it wasn't that kind of a conversation, and this is not that kind of a response. Not the kind of a response that.
You're
Uh,
making me sad.
yeah. Well, it's not. I'm not breaking down a debate, or I'm not.
Sure.
Getting into uh, all the technicalities of the positions and stuff like that. But I do think it bears some kind of response because it, you had this conversation between Costi Hinn and Jeff Durbin on eschatology. They both expressed their love and affirmation for one another as brothers and sisters, or excuse me, brothers in Christ, and all eschatological views. Brothers and sisters, we should
Right.
agree to disagree without becoming disagreeable, as they say. The problem, of course, is that we also have to be honest about the level of division that these doctrinal views actually introduce into your ministry, and that is to be approached at a couple different levels because what you do in ministry is one thing, generally public ministry and such. What you do in the context of the local church is something entirely different. There's no way in the world that Costihan and Jeff Durbin are going to be pastoring at the same church. That's just not
Right.
within the pale of possibilities. Neither would I want to pastor with either of them because we have way too many differences among ourselves when it comes to that subject of eschatology that goes way beyond just what do you believe about the return of Christ, or what's the timing of the return, or the nature of the millennium. There are, if I can put it this way, Micah, there are system-wide issues that are at work in these eschatological systems, and so
Right.
system-wide issues means there are hermeneutical issues that will radically affect your interpretation of Scripture in general. Costi Hen is going to be operating off of a grammatical, historical, literal, hermeneutical in keeping with the dispensational model of premillennialism. And Jeff Durbin is going to be using more of a redemptive historical approach or covenantal approach to things. However, I also want to challenge that from someone that would share. I think probably Jeff and I would have much more in common hermeneutically, just because we're both covenantal in our theology. But even then, I would want to show how that postmillennialism is not faithful to the redemptive historical approach to hermeneutics, and I think violates it quite explicitly in various places. But nevertheless, it was a conversation that these men had that involved a whole lot of you know just common ground.
Right.
They discussed the gospel. They discussed the idea that, hey, whatever your eschatological view is, what does it really matter in light of we still have to preach the gospel despite our eschatology, and that certainly is correct.
Right.
Despite what we believe eschatologically, You know, Costi Hinn made it very clear, despite my, belief in a rapture or in a millennium, he's still going to preach the gospel because that's the commission, that's the job. And as Costi kept saying, he's going to get after it. Okay, amen. And so too for Jeff Durbin, getting after it means preaching the gospel, doing evangelism, apologetics, which he does. He's done videos where he's on the street, talking with folks. And so that is not a surprise. I don't regard either of these men to be inactive in the gospel, not productive, sort of lukewarm Christians. These men are active in the gospel, and they are both doing a lot for the sake of the gospel. Their whole lives are dedicated to the gospel. So that's not in question at all. What is in question is just the divergence of views and how far-reaching they are, what they mean for your Christian life, and those kinds of things. Now, I do want to talk about something, Micah, because Costi set up this conversation where Costi Hinn, it was his job, I guess, to critique his own movement,
Right.
and it was Jeff Durbin's job to critique his own movement. So,
Right. Which is one of the reasons why I wish it would have been, punches thrown, just because I didn't feel like it was like at all the warts that they talked about weren't actually, that big of a deal. They were just kind of like sub points.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, of course, it would be nice to have a full-scale debate, and those things have happened already.
Sure,
we've
absolutely.
had debates on eschatology and such, but for this conversation, Costi Hinn made it really clear, like he hates anything that has to do with, we're just gonna wait for the rapture. So this escapist mentality. Right. He also mentioned Zionism, like all things Israel, pro-Israel was a big problem, and those things are valid, I suppose. I think in our circles and in Costi Hinn's circles, which happen to be Calvinist for the most part, the dispensationalism and premillennialism that he is around is not going to be kind of the kooky sort of classical dispensational hyper rapture type enthusiasm. They're gonna believe in a rapture. They're gonna teach a rapture, articulate a rapture. They're gonna argue exegetically for a rapture, but they're certainly not going to be of the escapist types. Now, no matter what, and this wasn't done in their conversation, which is what probably left you kind of not disappointed, but just maybe wanting more, was that in comparison to one another, certainly, no matter how many ways Costi Hinn wants to qualify it, in contrast to postmillennialism or to Jeff Durbin's position, it still is an escapist theology, right? Because it definitely falls short of the Jeff Durbin, the postmillennial reconstructionist position of, hey, it's not just about preaching the gospel, it's actually about cultural transformation. And so for as far as Jeff Durbin is concerned, no matter how much you qualify it, you still fall miserably short of what it means in their system to quote unquote get after it. You're still an escapist. You're still not engaging the gospel, of the kingdom, as Jeff Durbin is known to talk about in a postmillennial fashion. So no matter what, it still falls short of what postmill would envision as being faithful to preach and to further the gospel. Ironically, I would probably be more aligned with Costi Hinn on issues of preaching the gospel, because neither of us have a reconstructionist agenda. Neither of us believe in redeeming the culture. Neither of us believe in some sort of ontological transformation of nature here and now. Okay. And so, in that respect, Costi and I are going to be much more in tune with one another as far as the mission and what that looks like. Now, when it got to Jeff Durbin critiquing postmillennialism and theonomy, the very first thing he mentioned was pride. and just how prideful
Yeah.
some of the postmillennial camps have become.
I mean, I can understand that. I mean, whenever your leading thing is oh, we're the optimistic ones. We have an optimistic eschatology. Well, no, I think any eschatology that has Christ winning is a pretty optimistic eschatology. It's not just because some of us see the world kind of going through, terrible, just evil. That doesn't mean that it's all negative and it's not optimistic.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And I think we should all humbly, confess our propensity to pride
Oh,
and all
absolutely.
of that. But with that said, I think where I wish Jeff Durbin would have acknowledged, or at least hear, if we would have had any kind of pushback, because they just listened to each other. They didn't even
Yes.
really, yeah, they didn't really,
No clarifying
there was no
questions,
follow
nothing.
up. They just kind of
Yeah.
listened to each other. But if there were to be any follow up at all, I would have followed that up with just how radically divisive postmillennialism is, and theonomy specifically.
Yeah.
Um, Unlike premillennialism, premillennialism does not have a reputation of going into churches and dividing churches and literally dissolving churches. I mean,
A little bit of a sore subject with you, huh?
well, not only that, but it's
No,
just
you
the
see it.
testimonies that I've gotten over the
Yeah.
years.
You've seen it all over the place.
Yeah, I've seen it in my own church experience, but I've
Uh-huh.
heard it even far worse in other
Yeah.
pastors' experiences that will just email me. I'll do something on postmillennialism or theonomy, and they will email me out of the blue. I don't know these men. I've never talked to these men.
Wow.
They'll just email me out of the blue and tell me theonomy is destroying my church right now. And I just got word from a dear pastor friend of mine, not far from here, who is saying exactly that, that post-mill theonomy stuff is destroying his church. And I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised at all. And so although I wanted to talk about this conversation, I honestly, I wanted to do a little bit of theology, a little bit of critique of each position, and kind of the irony of these two men talking about this, because I'm going to make the case, Micah, and this would be a good short for YouTube here, but I'm going to make the case that in many ways, postmillennialism and premillennialism are the same thing.
Okay.
And postmillennialism would be remarkably, at least postmillennialists, the post-mill guys would say that's audacious, that's insulting, that's absurd, that's ludicrous, that's whatever, that's an insult, or you're just being ridiculous, or you must not understand postmillennialism, or whatever. But again, I would just say that both post-mill and pre-mill, because they believe in what I call a sub-eschatological state of affairs, which is either in a golden age, kind of like what Donald Trump's envisioning. We're going to go into a quote unquote golden age. I don't know. We'll talk about Donald Trump's golden era here in a moment, but either in this world, in this time frame now, before Christ returns, or we're going to go into a golden age, quote unquote, or quote unquote, a millennium, which is Costi Hinn's position, in the future. But what do they both have in common? Neither of them are heaven. So your hope is actually not in heaven. Your hope is in some kind of semi-partial, kind of heavenized world. And I would just argue that's not apostolic. I don't see that anywhere taught by Jesus and the apostles, that we are to long for the time when we'll be in a better age than what we're in now. Won't be quite heaven, but it will be better than what this is. And then when you examine both golden era and premillennialism, millennium, they're, Micah, they're actually not heavenly at all. They're a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about what post-mill is saying, And I just talked to a post-mill brother just the other day who recognized this, that, yeah, basically, based on what Revelation 20 says, apparently in the post-mill scheme, you Christianize the world, but in the end, there is still some sort of future cataclysmic crisis. And especially if you look at the older postmillennialist guys, Jonathan Edwards, many of the Puritans, B.B. Warfield, where you have these older postmillennial theologians, and they all believed in a still future dissolving of the world, where the world divulges in the apostasy. Jonathan Edwards still believed in a man of sin, an antichrist, in the future after the golden era. And so that's what I mean by it's not a golden age at all. So this golden age language is just, it's a huge letdown in the postmillennial theology. If you're premillennial, it's Micah, if I can say it this way, it's kind of worse.
Oh yeah,
because things unravel just the same according to Revelation chapter 20. Because remember what it says there: after the millennium is over, supposedly, Satan is loosed, Gog and Magog arise, the multitude of people persecuting the camp of the saints, coming against the saints, is like the number of the sand of the sea. There's a great battle, great war. God has to consume them out of heaven with fire. And so it's even, why do I say it's worse? Because in the premillennial scheme, Jesus is here. So unlike postmillennialism, where we can say we messed it all up in the end,
sure, yeah.
Premillennialism is advancing a proposal that says that Jesus can't hold on to it in the end, and lets it unravel right in front of his physical body. Mm-hmm. So these are kind of the things, and none of these things got talked about.
And I don't even think it would be considered necessarily his physical body. I think you have to be concerned with his glorified body, because a lot of things bad.
Well, that's what I mean. His physical body will be glorified in the millennium.
Right, but his physical body, a lot of bad things happened whenever he was here 2,000 years ago, but it was not his glorified body.
Right.
And so now we're talking about him in his glorified body, and all this nasty stuff is happening.
He's in the state of glory.
Correct, yeah. He has all control.
Right. He's in his heavenly session, his heavenly estate, his glorified body, his glorified form, and in that form, he cannot rule and reign successfully on the earth. That is really, really problematic. And both Costi and Jeff Durbin, they both said, I agree with you. We need some kind of earthly reign. They both said that. We have to have this reign on this earth. And I would say Scripture teaches no such thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the language of earth, Jerusalem, the temple, all of that language is talking in mainly spiritual categories, but that's all talking about true eschatological categories. It's talking not about the earthly temple, Isaiah 40 to 48, or excuse me, Ezekiel 40 to 48, as G.K. Beale has demonstrated. It is talking about the heaven temple. It is not talking about at the end of time, the people of God are going to be busy with brick and mortar. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about the realization of the cosmic temple, the heaven temple, that will be eternal and is essentially to be identified with the new creation. And really, that temple imagery throughout the book of Revelation, it actually develops until it reaches its absolute watershed moment, until it reaches its absolute climax, when God declares actually what? There is no temple. Mm-hmm. God is the temple. Because it says, John looked, and behold, there was no temple. And so in the end, all temple imagery becomes subsumed under the presence of the glory of God. To reiterate, to basically to teach us what Paul says in Acts 17, God does not dwell in temples. God does not dwell in temples made of hands. God does not dwell in temples made of anything, not even streets of gold. He does not dwell in any temples because he is infinite. He is absolute, infinite, eternal, omnipotent, and omnipresent. How can he possibly dwell somewhere? So, right? You can't add locality to God. All the locality of God's presence in Scripture is theophanic. They're theophanies. God's presence appears in the burning bush, appears in the pillar of fire, the cloud. It appears in the angel of the Lord coming temporarily in a Christophany. It appears in these temporary forms, the Shekinah glory in the Holy of Holies. These are theophanic manifestations of the glory of God, but in the strictest sense of the word, God does not dwell in temples made with hands at all. So there's no need for a future earthly temple. It actually saddens me that there are Christians walking around, waiting around for another temple to be rebuilt. It's quite staggering that
that red
belief
heifer.
system is still out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got
So-
that red heifer. We're ready to, get that temple consummated and ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And so I don't know, this conversation, what your final takeaway from it was. I'm glad it happened. I'm very
Sure.
glad it happened. I'm glad they sat down
Yeah.
and they talked about this, but there is still quite a bit of actual work to be done, not just sitting around having a conversation about it. But these are systemic issues.
Right.
Postmillennial hermeneutics will fundamentally redefine your Christian walk, and that's what they say. It's not even what we say; it's what they say.
Right.
So it's not even it's not us critiquing the position. It's just what it amounts to. Your mission in life begins to be changed. It begins to be altered, and you're looking for something more cultural, more political, and you're looking for something less spiritual.
Right. And I would say that my key takeaway in it is that I just want to see actually all three positions represented, and I would
Yeah.
like to see actual pushback on certain things or just even clarifying questions, and just to be able to say, okay, well, that means that you then believe X, Y, and Z, and not just let them state their case and not say a word. That's the only thing that I found negative about it. I thought that the conversation was good, but they kind of dictated their own quote unquote warts, and I don't think that they were as nasty of warts as they actually think that they are.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. So, had to discuss that. There wasn't enough substance in the video itself, like I said, because it was just a friendly conversation. There really wasn't enough there for me to say, I'm going to do a full-blown breakdown critique. I'm going to play the clips, and there just wasn't enough substance there for me. But we've got other stuff to get to.
Turning the page.
Turn the page.
What's
We
this is where this is where the Dispies have me, man. America is just getting bad.
Oh, I know. I
Yeah.
know. Well, remember, amillennialism and premillennialism, which includes dispensationals, had to throw that in there, but it includes Dispies. Yes, sorry. Yeah, we believe in an optimistic future for the church, but we don't have an optimistic future of the culture. We don't even have an optimistic future of the state. We know that eventually there are limits to common grace. Common grace will never transform into special grace. In other words, what God does in the preservation of the world through common grace will never, that universal principle will never become saving grace, right? And so we can expect that a world under common grace will continue to produce the kind of world that we're looking at right now. And Micah, I've got so many things to talk about in terms of the culture, but I told you that there are three things that are developing in our culture right now before our very eyes that are important enough to point out. And let me talk about one that I left off. Maybe I can spend 5 minutes on this.
You'll spend 10, but go ahead.
Well, it was announced, and it's been all over social media, YouTube, X, it's been everywhere, that Rome, during their Jubilee celebration week, which is happening right now and for the next few days or whatever, it's going to be happening, right? They have invited the alphabet people to come and participate. The LG, and then it goes on from there to who knows what's even in or out anymore, right? But you can watch video after video after video on YouTube. I'm sort of surprised that that the censorship overlords haven't banned a lot of this stuff. It's kind of a. I'm glad to see it. I just don't trust it. But there's a lot of videos by Roman Catholics who are posting videos. I sent you a picture. I won't show it because it's vile. It's got some profanity, but it's basically same-sex folks that are engaged in sin together, you know, pretending to be celebrating the Mass and wearing shirts and wearing rainbows and wearing things that, you know, express their sin openly and celebrate it. And there's group after group after group online that are saying, we are finally being represented there. We're finally accepted. This is a great new day of acceptance for this community. And man, they are just, I saw one post on X, and it was of a guy that's confused about his identity, and that he felt so embraced finally by the Catholic Church, to just live in open rebellion to the Word of God. And it's all over the place. And this Pope Leo the 14th or whatever, he's basically saying that he's going to continue the policies of the last Pope when it comes to these sexuality issues and gender issues. He's going to keep going down that track and to try to honor his direction of what he was going, which we all know where Pope Francis was going. And it was no good because Pope Francis had a whole parade of transsexuals at the Vatican on stage or wherever. Maybe he was somewhere, but he was somewhere where he had a bunch of transsexuals on stage dancing for him, performing for him. And it was quite awful even just to see. But Pope Leo wants to continue that legacy, that direction. And let me tell you, Catholics are livid. They are all over social media just condemning this Pope, condemning the Vatican, condemning the Church as it stands now, saying it does not stand with previous, more conservative popes and, whoever they were. Just amazing. And this only reinforces, the last thing I'll say on this, okay, but maybe I'll do an entire episode on this, but this only reinforces, Micah, what I've been talking about, that Catholicism is the perfect religion for the natural man. It does not require any spiritual transformation at all. It does not require a fundamental transformation of lifestyle, right? The language that Paul uses in Corinthians when he says, "Such were some of you," right? But you were washed, you were cleansed, by the Spirit of God. You were changed. That's gone. Now what Rome is saying is you can stay just as you are. That this Pope came out and said, you are all children of God. Everyone's a child of God. And all I have to say is, how do you like your new religion now, Candace Owens? How do you like your new religion now? Everybody out there that recently converted to Catholicism because Donald Trump got elected, conservatism is on the rise, people are abominating evangelicalism because it's having concerts and it's all just me theology, man-centered theology and theatrics and pastors swinging from the rafters, et cetera, and you want something more traditional, more religious, more ancient, with more iconography. You want something with more symbolism, more high church, more liturgy. But how do you like your new religion now? It is the religion of the natural man. It is a self-help. It is a self-saving, autosoteric, sacramental, sacerdotal religion where you never have enough. You know what happened at church, Micah, this past week?
You celebrated the Mass and you actually had the Eucharist turn into the substance of Jesus. Is that not it? That's wrong? Okay, sorry.
No, I wasn't talking about your church. I was talking about mine.
Oh, sorry.
Right after service this Sunday, 3 young people walked into our church because we're meeting at this beautiful, historic old church. And they said, we just wanted to come and see the building because there was a report that it had burnt and they wanted to see the restoration. And there were 3 Catholic teenagers. And they were very, very serious about Catholicism. And they said, wait, so you guys are evangelical Christians, right? I said, well, sure, we're Christians. And they had a question for me. They came in and eventually made their way and they ended up talking to me. And they asked me, are you the kind of Christian that believes that Catholics are not saved? And I said, yes, I am. I do not believe Catholics are saved. I said, I believe Catholics can be saved. I believe there might be saved Catholics unbeknownst to them, or rather, despite their belief system, they could be ignorant of what they even claim to believe, and they have a simple faith in Jesus. And eventually, if they are saved, I believe that God will faithfully lead them out of the Catholic Church, like God has done for countless thousands of people. Okay? But there is a report that recently came out that Catholicism right now is absolutely exploding in popularity. Some churches are reporting an increase up to 70% of church attendance.
Wow.
Into the Catholic Church. And you can go online right now and find all these different testimonials of young people telling, look, I grew up Protestant my whole life. I was a Baptist church kid my whole life. I was raised in the church. Why I converted to Catholicism. You can find those videos everywhere. And if it's not Catholicism, it's Eastern Orthodoxy, which is no better. It just has no pope. And no better. It's still sacramental, sacerdotal, self-salvation. Christ doesn't actually save you. You're saved by what you do. In the end, it's synergism all the way. Semi-Pelagian, synergistic all the way. And these systems absolutely despise and hate Protestant Reformed theology. It is anathema. Remember what the Vatican says. Vatican II, Canon 9. What does it say? If you believe you are justified by faith alone, let him be anathema. Period. And the catechisms are even more explicit. You are not saved on the basis of grace through faith alone. Nope. That's not enough. You have to continue to receive the grace of God through the church, the magisterium of the church. So I'm going to do an episode, Micah, on Catholicism rising because that's what's happening.
Yeah, but I need to know, what was their response to that? Did they hear you out? Did they understand what you were trying to communicate with them?
Yeah, these were very inquisitive young people, very sincere. They had a bunch of questions, which was great. They seemed genuinely concerned about what the Bible taught. They asked me, they even asked me to show it to them in the Greek. One of them was studying Greek.
Yeah.
So I actually read a few Greek verses for them because one of them, for example, did not believe the Bible mentioned the word predestination. And I said, well, it's right here in Romans 9, it's right here in Ephesians 4, and I was showing him and couldn't believe it. And I'm just like,
I'm actually shocked that they would be reading Greek and not just going straight to the Latin.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's right.
they're the original KJV only people,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The emphasis on Latin is gone. I mean,
Yeah.
they're changing that. The Catholics are getting smart. They know how to prey on the young evangelical, you know, Christians that, you know, if they just hand them Latin, they're never going to attract anybody. So that's
Yeah.
they've ditched that. They are not using that anymore. They're not emphasizing that at all.
Well, I hope you invited them to your Friday night Bible studies so that
I
they
did.
can.
I did. I invited them to Friday. I invited them to come and sit and ask questions again. I invited them to bring whoever they want. Bring your priest. I don't care who you want to bring.
Yeah.
We can have a more robust conversation. I told them, look, there's actually nothing more important than this conversation right here. We're talking about your eternal destiny. And if you get the gospel wrong, I said, you have to acknowledge in Galatians, you get one word wrong in Galatians. You get one thing wrong, one doctrine wrong. According to Galatians, you are anathema. You're accursed. And so you mess up on justification, and you're not in the saving gospel message. You're just not in biblical Christianity.
Right.
And all that said, we need to double down. And I'm actually kind of shocked, Micah. I'll be really honest with you. My focus has been on Islam. It has been on AI. It has been on other stuff. It has been on just this kind of modern world that we're living in that just becoming an amalgamation of just all this stuff. But never in my wildest dreams that I think I would have to come full circle and to defend my Protestant faith from Catholicism.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is all those things that you just mentioned, the Islam, the AI, now the Roman Catholics, they're all really, really important things that we should be engaging with and pushing back against. But it seems like it's coming like full court press from every single side right now that you cannot take a breath. You can't even almost divide and conquer and just say, hey, you, this parachurch ministry, or you, this church, you go handle the Islamic radicalization in the state of Texas and in the United States. And you over here, you go and handle the Catholic stuff. We all kind of have to do a little bit of everything right now just because it is so prevalent.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I was going to talk a little bit about evangelism, Micah, but I think what I want to do is I want to talk about two more things.
Okay.
And the first thing I want to talk about before I get to the last one is I want to talk about AI. And if we rewinded, let's say 2 years ago, I was forwarding videos to friends, including you, of sporadic videos. They were here and there. A really good one was hard to find. But they were videos, Micah, with very prominent AI experts. Let's say someone like Eric Schmidt, right? Warning about the dangers of AI. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, the videos were there, but they were rare. Right in 1 or 2 years, YouTube is now, and social media is now saturated with these videos. And when we talk about things that are developing in the culture right now, what is developing in the culture right now, as I focused on the new apologetics, I just did an interview with Eric Hovind on AI, and people should go over to Creation Today and watch that. It was a good interview. But, it's like I've been warning people about this issue now for so many years. And now here we are in 2025. And guess what? Everyone's warning everyone about this issue now. It's no longer, hey, this guy Emilio on Red Grace Media talking about crazy stuff with AI, and man, he's
the fringe.
Yeah, it's just too much of an emphasis for him, and just too much. I don't know why he's talking so much about that. Now, it's literally everywhere. I just watched another one today. The guy talking about at what level we get to before the super intelligent robots kill us all. And he actually says, then they begin to kill us all off. Right. And these are not just paranoid alarmists. These aren't Christian apologists, thinkers, whatever you want to call it. These aren't anti-technology people. Listen, folks, these are the developers themselves. This is what's staggering. This is the developers themselves telling us day and night. The social conditioning right now, Micah, is remarkably powerful. We're sitting in it. We're like the frog in the pot, in the boiling pot. We're just sitting in it, and the voices are just appearing all around us. Everybody now, from Elon Musk to people in the government to politicians to the most famous podcasters in the world to TED Talks to everything. We are hearing a universal sound all around us right now, and the message is getting increasingly clear. AI is almost about to reach generative levels of artificial intelligence, and then beyond that, we are going to be in extremely dangerous levels of artificial intelligence, where we're going to go far beyond digital assistants, which are coming in the next couple years. We're going to go far beyond that to now an intelligence at the level at which we don't understand their own internal AI language, where the AI is coding itself, the AI is inventing itself, the AI is communicating among itself, and we no longer even have the capacity to discern or decipher what is it talking about as this center of AI communicates with that center of AI over there. But what's really remarkable and strange is that all the centers of AI around the world, the really big ones, they're all cooperating with one another. There's cooperability, and it's in the books that I've shown people time and time and time again. Mustafa Suleyman in The Coming Wave, he talks about it, that we're moving out of the realm of cooperation, and into the realm of consolidation. No longer are these AIs cooperating. They're going to start consolidating and becoming one thing. Okay? And I just think it is incredibly shocking that in a few years, the vast majority of people that we see on media, whether it's news, podcasters, on the airwaves, radio, television, whatever, are telling us of the high level of risk for what? A rolling blackout? No. For global annihilation. Okay? Glenn Beck, Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson. I mean, you name it. It's the Christians that are way behind the ball. You turn on Christian radio, Micah, I'm sure you listen to a lot of local Christian radio.
I do. I mean, it consumes me every single day. Yeah. But hey, can I ask just one clarifying question real quick? Just because I want to make sure that I fully understand what you're talking about. We're not talking, whenever we're talking about AI, we're not talking about Grok. We're not talking about ChatGPT or those levels of things. We're talking about maybe even institutional, academic, big mainframe systems that are or are not on the network, or they're not on the web.
Most of the cutting edge AI is inaccessible to the public.
Right, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's whenever it gets out of that box that the problems really arise.
Yeah, I just listened to a developer say that he was present at the formation of all the large language models, okay, like OpenAI. And he said, we broke every rule we said we weren't going to break. And we we crossed every boundary. We broke every rule. Whatever the safety net was, we just blew through it like nothing. And we're living through right now. It's playing out like an Avengers movie. I mean, it's just literally playing out like a sci-fi movie where we reach Skynet levels and we all know it. We're all cognizant of it. We're aware of it. That's the crazy thing about what we're living through. And this AI, yes, it is AI that only a few have access to right now, but it is also the large language models. It is the ChatGPT. It is OpenAI. It is what they are developing, because guess what's going into your digital agent? It's going to be large language models, 100%. That's going to be your digital agent before they merge it to a hardware agent. In other words, a robot. And I was just listening to, I don't know if it was Impact Theory or the other guy, but one of the guys that's always doing tech interviews, but he just recently did an interview with a leading PhD, developer level, computer scientist, okay, who is in the know and everything else. And he is warning of what all these books talk about, that in the next 10 years, 60% of the jobs are gone. And so now Jeffrey Hinton then just recently came out and posted a video saying that UBI is now absolutely necessary. So what is he saying? Socialism is coming. The universal basic income is not an option in a post-human world where robotics have replaced humans, because we're moving from technology to change us. That's transhumanist talk, and we're moving to we're moving to technology to replace us, and that's post-humanist talk. Now, that post-humanism does not mean at the very beginning they push a button and exterminate us all. That is not what it means. It means it seeps in philosophically, it seeps in morally, it seeps in socially, economically, it seeps in at every sector of society and injects post-human thinking and post-human trends and post-human way of life, where we don't need humans anymore in grocery stores. We don't need humans anymore at the fast food place. We don't need humans anymore.
Emilio, I got to call you out as a hypocrite, because you were just telling me the other day that you went to the brand new Whole Foods right down the street from you, where you didn't have to interact with a single person.
100%. You got a shopping cart now with the AI. It's preloaded. It's preloaded with an AI scanner, and you don't have to talk to a single human. And for people who like that kind of thing, walking in and out of a grocery store, you just scan your own items, swipe your own card.
I swear to you, he is a very friendly person. He does want to talk to you, but man, he just doesn't like people.
It depends what day it is.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I mean, seriously, it's just this inundation. And I'm just saying, we have never, I mean, Micah, you and I are about the same age. I'm probably older than you are, but we didn't grow up, okay? We just didn't grow up waking up on Saturday morning or whatever as teenagers or whatever. I listen to the kind of conversations that I'm having around my daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, those conversations were not going on around me and with the adults when I was her age. Or when she becomes a teenager, even when I was a teenager, or when I was 20 years old, or when I was 30 years old. These conversations were not going on around me. But all of a sudden, like a switch, literally like a switch, you can't go onto YouTube a single day of the week now without seeing at least 20 videos on global annihilation. Not by the, isn't it amazing the world we're living in? Alex Jones, give you an example of a conspiracy theorist. Alex Jones was talking about this 30 years ago. And of course, he was wearing a tin hat, right? He had aluminum foil on his head, but now everyone is talking about this. And everyone is legitimate, supposedly. When I say developing in the culture, this is staggering. And I just don't hear enough Christian apologetics, philosophy, ethics that is tackling all of this and discussing it. That's just one thing.
Just from one of the questions that I see here on the YouTube chat, it's like, what
Is
is
there a
the
YouTube
Christian?
chat?
Yeah, there's a YouTube chat. What is a Christian supposed to do about this? What are we supposed to? How are we supposed to react to it? Because keep it simple, keep it like 2 minutes at the most. But like, why is it a big deal? What are we supposed to do? It's 5 minutes.
Yeah, no. I'll keep it in. I can do it in a, Micah. I can do it in a sentence, okay? Eschatological urgency is part of the Bible. It's in every book of the Bible. Eschatological urgency is all about how do you live now? Think of the Peter text, 2 Peter. Knowing that all these things are going to be dissolved, what manner of persons ought you to be? Peter asks. And then he goes into your walk, holiness, and worship, and being faithful. And so this should drive us to more faithfulness to Christ and to prepare the future generation for really understanding what is the difference between human intelligence and machine-generated intelligence. Because guess what the textbooks are doing right now? They're reducing intelligence to consciousness. Right there. The singularity is nearer. Chapter 1. What does it say? Consciousness is data. And so, slowly but surely, they want you to adopt a worldview where intelligent things are conscious things. Conversely, your consciousness makes you nothing more than something intelligent. Is that what a human being is? Just something intelligent? No. Animals have certain level of intelligences. Remember the quote from Young Guns?
No.
Pigs are as smart as dogs.
See, I'm not as old as you. I don't remember that.
That's right. You forget it. I should have quoted something from Pokemon or something.
That's an interesting way of phrasing it, because that's not where I thought you were going to go with it. And I think that we always have to be prepared to answer for Christ, about the gospel in a world that is ever changing. And I think, would you summarize it even further just to say that it's more about going back to the evangelism portion of it, is how we do represent Christ in a world where intelligence is just data?
Yeah, I mean, there's a full-orbed answer to that question. What do we do now? Right? Everything from getting equipped. You might actually need to read new books.
No.
You might need to read something beyond the kingdom of the cults. We're not in 1988 anymore.
Yeah.
You might need to actually go pick up a book on transhumanism, like by Jacob Schatzer. Or you might actually go read the sources themselves to get an understanding. Go read the Transhumanist Reader. Read the actual experts and see exactly what they're saying and identify the ethical dilemmas and the spiritual dilemmas and the biblical dilemmas that they're putting you in as a Christian with your worldview and how you should respond.
Yeah.
Know their foundations. Know where this whole thing comes from, and you'll know where this whole thing is going. It is post-Enlightenment rationalism, humanism, and it is nothing but evolutionary theory. That's all that this is backed up by. 100%. Elon Musk and everybody else can talk about simulation theory. That's all gobbledygook. That's all matrix nonsense. That's all these guys just growing up with a Atari joystick in their hand. These guys are just nerds, and they want to believe in something fantastic because they don't want to believe in an infinite, fantastic, marvelous, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent being. And so they want to create a simulator in the sky. Okay, they want to believe in the great simulator in the sky. And that's not what we believe in. And so we need to be able to answer people, what is real reality? What is really truly contradictory in your worldview versus mine? And so we have to engage it from a moral level, philosophical level, and apologetics level. But Peter warns us, above all, be faithful. Above all, be holy. Above all, walk with God. I preached this past week, Micah, about the absence of rest in the life of many, many Christians right now. Christians that you know, people you know, friends you know, relationships you know. People that are restless. They don't have rest. They're restless. Mm-hmm. They're shifting. They're moving. They're disbelieving. They're doubting. They're questioning. They're insecure. They're unsure. They're not confident. They're not competent. And they're not willing to abide. They want to move. They want to change. They want to evolve. They want to adopt something new. They want something, even in the name of more ancient, much older. They want antiquity. They don't care if it's exegetically faithful as long as it's old. It's rubbish. And we have to be prepared to withstand that kind of thing. Now, Micah, I can go on and on about AI, and you know that, but I have to hit one more thing.
Okay.
I didn't drag you on Red Grace Media tonight live not to hit this last thing. And it's what is on the social consciousness of America right now. And it can only be called the barbarity of the age. Mm-hmm. What we're witnessing right now, think about it, Micah. I mean, really, people out there, I want you to think about it. We're in the 21st century. We have breathtaking technology. We are making insane advancements in science, in technology, in military equipment. Elon Musk is shooting rockets up into space and then coming them back down and catching them in a little rocket glove, okay? I mean, we are living in insanely futuristic, technological, advanced times. And what is going on in the world right now is that we are seeing a demonic increase in diabolical barbarity. It is a barbaric age. Everybody saw the Ukrainian girl on the bus or on the train with an absolute maniac madman in North Carolina or wherever he was, and he just decides for zero reasons that we can understand to take out a knife and butcher her after she got off of work. She's fleeing the war in Ukraine. She comes here. I guess she was a model and she was working at a pizza joint. She gets off work, gets on a train, sits down. Guy sitting behind her for no reason, caught on video. The video is so bad nobody wants to watch it, and just literally starts stabbing her to death in front of everyone sitting there. I mean, this is what we're talking about. You saw what happened in Jerusalem on October 7th. The barbarity. They're dragging, this is broad daylight. We're living in this kind of world. They're dragging women, bloodied and bruised, throwing them in the back of trucks like meat, like a side of beef, all in broad daylight in front of the whole modern world. And Scripture, I would say, predicted all of this. The days are coming, Paul says, where people will become brutal. And it is a consequence of denying your maker, of rejecting your creator, God gives you over to what? Idolatry. Idolatry produces what? It produces immorality, and immorality produces this sort of nihilistic barbarism in the end, where people become, and the words that Paul uses, unloving. They don't feel anything. And it's getting so bad in America that Donald Trump has to literally send in the troops into modern American cities like Chicago. He's getting ready to go to Chicago, and whatever the talking points are on Fox News, I don't care. I don't live by those talking points. I'm just saying, I want to say this. We need missionaries to go into Black America. Black America is broken. Black culture is broken. Decades and decades and decades of hip hop culture, of whoredom, hooker culture, pimp culture, gangster culture, thug culture has just obliterated the Black community. It's in utter shambles right now. And I mean, half of my life, Micah, growing up as a young kid, I grew up in preppy Southern California, Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, Orange County, beautiful, 5 minutes from Disneyland, 5 minutes from the beach. The other half of my life, I grew up in Compton with my dad. And in the ghetto, I mean, the absolute hood, Inglewood, and places like that, Southgate. You don't want to walk down the street, okay? And these ghettos, it's in the Mexican culture, it's in the Black culture. They are utterly broken. But Black America right now is suffering from a complete and total pandemic of utter narcissistic nihilism. Narcissistic, utterly selfish nihilism, utterly self-destructive. And we literally need missionaries. I was talking to a friend of mine who grew up in Chicago, and he says, yeah, absolutely. Like we need to raise up Black men who will be willing to go into the hardest places of Black America and just be a light in the midst of darkness and just die if you have to. I mean, sending missionaries to die might sound unbelievable to you and I right now, but a century ago, and that was just common practice. Mm-hmm. You just sent missionaries to the absolute worst places of the world, knowing that they're going to be killed by animists or pagans in the jungle or whatever, and that's the sacrifice. That's the price that you pay for winning a people group over. And Black America in these ghetto, absolutely, you can't even go in these neighborhoods. I was just watching, Fox News. As much as I hate Fox News sometimes you got to watch it. But I was just watching, they had this show, this white kid goes into the worst neighborhoods in Chicago. He gets chaperoned around by a gang, and these gangsters are chaperoning, and they're joking with him and stuff like that. And they're walking around the streets. They all have machine guns down their pants. Not 9mm. They have AK-47s stuffed down their pants, just walking around the corners of the streets in Chicago. We are living in barbaric times right now. It's extremely dangerous. I don't know. This country needs some serious repentance and serious revival. Is God going to send it? That I don't know. But we can do our part in the small sphere of influence that we're living in right now. But these are the things I had to get off my chest tonight to just let people know. This is what's developing right now in our culture, right in front of our eyes. Yeah,
and that was a very heavy thing that you just kind of dropped down. I mean, I think that it's something that we're all seeing. We don't know how to react to it in a lot of cases. I think that your idea about sending, Americans, we can go back to whenever you and I were growing up. It was all about going across the world to tell the world about Jesus. But now it's like we just need to go like 20 miles south of us, or, 30 miles west of us, and talk about Jesus, because there's cultures within driving distance, walking distance for that matter, that don't know anything about Jesus, that will change their culture, change their lives, all for the better. And I'm not talking about just a social gospel or anything like that. I'm talking about radical change that will take people away from just all the things that you mentioned, the whoring lifestyle, the drugs, the gangster. I mean, you're a great example of that, of God really saving you from a gang culture that you quickly could have, slipped into.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
When you look at the birth rates and what's going on, everything's going down.
yeah.
Black community is plummeting. The white community, white people are having a lot less babies. Hispanics are always having a lot more kids. Muslim families, Hindu families are having way more kids. But for whatever reason, in America right now, we're witnessing the decline of both white and black communities. They are declining in their birth rate, but the absolute imploding of the black community, it saddens me. We joke around about all this woke stuff, right? We really shouldn't joke about it because it has massive spiritual implications, but you know what I mean? But what really should be happening is that all these woke people, these woke spokespersons out there, they really should be sounding an alarm. Not that you were judged, that there was racism in the office place or in the workplace, but that your entire people group is imploding.
It's moral relativism.
And then you're absolutely, like, they're cannibalizing themselves. And it's an absolute American travesty.
But you're free to be you. That's the problem.
Yeah, in a world of utter self-narcissism.
Right.
Yeah. The rise the rise and triumph of the modern self, as Carl Truman and others have pointed out. But anyway, all right, man, we went long enough tonight, but good times, good show. I'm sure we'll split these up into individual topics for people. But that's right. That's right.
Well,
Anyway, good times. Till next time. Thanks for joining us, guys. God bless.
God bless, guys.